All right, guys, you are watching live images coming in from Southern California. This is a high-speed chase. You're looking at that black SUV right there, traveling at speeds of more than 100 miles per hour. This is the San Clemente area of Southern California near San Diego. I'm assuming that the vehicle, given how fast it's going, has already left the San Clemente area. However, at last word, we know that this chase was happening in San Clemente, California. That is in Southern California, in between, I would say, Orange County and San Diego. All right, what we know so far, according to the California Highway Patrol, CHP is following this driver in this black SUV. We know that the driver is armed. He is a narcotics suspect. He is traveling on Interstate 5. We're going to get more information as we speak. It appears that he is traveling southbound on Interstate 5. We had last heard he was in San Clemente, which is in southern Orange County, but it is possible he's already entered the greater San Diego area. The chase actually began in the Paramount area of Southern California around 1 p.m. So you can see that this chase is 50. All right, for those of you just joining us, you're looking at live images of a high-speed chase currently underway in Southern California. This high-speed chase started in the Paramount area of Southern California around 1 o'clock. It's been going on for almost an hour now. The SUV that you see there, traveling at speeds of more than 100 miles per hour, has already entered the San Diego County area. It was last seen in Oceanside. I'm now hearing from our Fox affiliate out in Los Angeles that it has entered Carlsbad, California. Carlsbad, the home of Legoland, suburb of San Diego, the city of San Diego. You can see that is the black SUV that's traveling at a very high speed. You see not too far behind the CHP SUV, the California Highway Patrol, pursuing that vehicle at a very high speed. They are traveling on Interstate 5 southbound. They started again in Paramount, California, already in San Diego County. The question is, will the SUV end up in Mexico? Only time will tell. We are watching these live images come in from Southern California. Just a quick recap for those of you just joining us. We are watching a high-speed chase. We are looking at that black SUV right there. Hearing reports that that vehicle is going over 100 miles per hour. This chase has gone on for almost an hour now. According to our Fox affiliate in Los Angeles, this chase started around 1 p.m. Pacific time in the Paramount area of Southern California and is already traveled quite the distance. We are now looking at the vehicle as it is in San Diego County. It has traveled through Oceanside, through San Clemente. Last I heard, it was in the Carlsbad area of Southern California that is just north of the city of San Diego. We're looking at that SUV right there. It's traveling, switching lanes continuously. 1 minute it's in the far right lane, the next minute it's in the far left lane. Look at that. It just went straight from the far left lane into the, not even the far right lane, it's actually just in the shoulder of the highway. Some crazy high-speed action. We know that this chase has been going on for about an hour now, started in Paramount. If you guys are wondering why the suspect in this vehicle is wanted, the only thing we know so far is that it is a narcotic suspect or suspects inside the vehicle, and that the suspect inside is armed. Again, this information coming from our Fox affiliate in Los Angeles. We're continuing to watch this black SUV as it speeds along. The vehicle currently on the southbound Interstate 5. For those of you familiar with California and the West Coast, you know that if you keep going south on Interstate 5, you will end up in Mexico. Just a little bit of background on this high-speed chase. Again, this chase started in Paramount, California. That's in Los Angeles County. So over the course of the last hour, this SUV that we're looking at, as you can see, traveling at around 100 miles per hour at least, has covered quite the distance in Southern California, going from Los Angeles County to Orange County, now in San Diego County. Last we heard, the vehicle was in Carlsbad, California. I assume it is even further south now. Given how fast it's going, it is traveling on Interstate 5. The driver had gone in and out of lanes, as you are watching here live. He's currently doing that right now as well. Traveling on the 60 freeway, the 710, the 605, and then Interstate 5. Again, the vehicle traveling at speeds of more than 100 miles per hour. I'm hearing reports that it even hit about 120 miles per hour. As you can see, the SUV going from lane to lane, from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, sometimes even driving in the shoulder of the freeway, not even in a proper lane. Right now, we still don't know how many people are inside the vehicle. However, we do know that the person inside is wanted for a drug-related offense and that the person inside is armed. For some reason, it appears that the vehicle is slowing down. What was once a high-speed chase, now the driver has stopped. It is unclear what is going on right now, but it appears that the driver has stopped. Okay, now that we've panned out, we can see that this is in San Diego County near the Via de la Valle exit. I'm going to look up some more information on that so we can get some more details on where exactly the vehicle stopped. This is in Del Mar, California, just north of La Jolla, very close to the city of San Diego, not too far from this Mexico border. In fact, I'm going to check Google Maps right now so you guys have a rough idea. I would say it was about 35 miles, 36 miles from the U.S.-Mexico border, still north of San Diego. You can see the suspect surrendering right here. The suspect was a narcotics suspect, traveled 3 counties, Los Angeles County, Orange County, and San Diego County, traveling at speeds of more than 100 miles per hour. At some points, keep going as fast as 120 miles per hour. This chase went on for just over an hour. It appears that the suspect has surrendered peacefully. We are looking at this scene unfold on Interstate 5 southbound in the greater San Diego area. Again, this is San Diego County. This is the city of Del Mar, just north of San Diego, just north of La Jolla, California. All right, for those of you just joining us, we just watched a high-speed chase wrap up in San Diego County. Now, this chase started in Los Angeles County in the Paramount area around 1 p.m. and lasted for just about an hour. The black SUV that we were watching traveled from Los Angeles to Orange County to San Diego County. And as you were watching, the driver just seemed to pull over and surrender in Del Mar, California, just north of La Jolla, just north of San Diego, about 35 miles north of the U.S.-Mexico border. That is a wrap on that high-speed chase. But I'm going to take you guys live now to Mesa, where Senator John McCain is just about to start speaking.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you. Thank you very much. He was a great intern. He did a great job. Mayors are very important. Many of you don't know how important mayors are. They're the closest to the people. They're the ones that the people think the most of. The approval rating of Congress, by the way, is 13%, in case you missed it. If there's anyone in that approval rating, please raise your hand. I didn't think so. It's well-deserved, probably. I landed at Phoenix Sky Harbor a couple of days ago, and a guy ran up to me and said, "Hey," he said, "anybody ever tell you look a lot like Senator John McCain?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Doesn't it sometimes make you mad as heck?" So you can see. My favorite story concerns when I had just been elected to the Senate. One night at 2 a.m., the phone rang, and I answered the phone, and I said, "Hello," and she said, "John, this is Marcella." It was Marcella Peters, a woman who was my campaign chairman in Chandler, Arizona, a stalwart Republican worker and a great, great person. And I said, "Yeah, well, hello." And she said, "I've got a terrific problem." I said, "What is it?" She said, "They're changing the garbage pickup in front of my home from Tuesday morning to Thursday morning." She said, "I have to be up late on Wednesday night at Republican headquarters and on Thursday. Well, we went on for about 10 minutes about this problem that she had with them changing the garbage pickup in front of her home from Tuesday morning to Thursday morning. So finally I said, "Marcella, why don't you call the mayor of Chandler and discuss this problem with him?" And she said, "Oh no, I wouldn't want to bother an important man like that with an issue this trivial." So it puts everything in the right perspective for you. And David Luna, thank you for our city councilman. And Mesa is a marvelous place. It has grown faster than almost any other part of our state. It is a great place for people to live and raise their families, and obviously for installations and enterprises such as this. And I hope that all of our friends here from around the world have enjoyed the hospitality here. I don't claim you enjoy the heat. I understand that. But I hope you have enjoyed the hospitality of the people here in the East Valley. And I hope you've been happy here, and I hope the memories when you leave and go back to your respective countries, that you will have nothing but the fondest memories of spending your time here. And by the way, an item of trivia, I also was a flight instructor at one time in my earlier days, and I enjoyed it a great deal. In fact, that's when I really learned to fly. I think our instructors will tell you, that's when you really learn to fly, is when you teach it. Unfortunately, though, and I hope this never happens to you, my number of landings does not match the number of takeoffs. And you always want to have that happen, as you know. In fact, some of you may not know that I was able to intercept a surface-to-air missile with my own airplane back during the Vietnam War, and ejected from my airplane, parachuted and landed in a lake in the center of the city of Hanoi, believe it or not. Not in the outskirts, not in the suburbs, but right in the center of the city, and it was approximately a 5-minute ride to the prison. So my escape portion of my incarceration was very brief. So I just want to mention several issues with you. But again, we really hope that you are happy here, and we hope that when you go back and travel the world, that you'll remember that the folks here in Arizona and in East Valley were we're your friends, and we'll always welcome you back, especially since you'll all be very rich and you want to bring back money when you do. We're living in a. First of all, I want to talk about Arizona issues for a minute with you, because this is not just unique to Arizona, it's worldwide, and that is the issue of water. Fire and water are the challenges of our state and the Southwest for the 21st century. 20% of our national forests have been consumed by fire in the last 10 years. You can do the math and figure out what can happen. If you've been seeing television, you'll see there's a huge fire going on right now in the state of Washington that is out of control and has burned a lot. And it's an issue for all of us. Our children and our grandchildren are not going to have the lifestyle that we have today unless we address our mayors and city councils, our congressional delegations, our governor, and the citizens of our state are all going to have to join together. If there was easy answers, we would have come up with them a long time ago. If you have a chance sometime before you leave, I would recommend a trip up to Lake Powell. It's one of the wonderful experiences that anybody can have. You'll see up there behind the Glen Canyon Dam what we call the bathtub rings of how Lake Powell has gone down and down and down. Another one of our great recreations is Lake Mead. It is at its lowest point ever, and we are in the midst of a 14-year drought. But that isn't just in the United States, it's worldwide when you look around the world. You may have seen in India, 1,000 people died in the heat just in one part of India the other day. So we are going to have to change our lifestyles to a degree. We are going to have to understand that we can't just use water indiscriminately. Not everybody's going to be able to have a green lawn. Not everybody is going to have a golf course within 2 or 3 blocks of where we live. Not everybody is going to indiscriminately use water as we have through especially our farmers. Right now we use crops, we raise crops that are really high water users. We're going to have to do some simple things. The Colorado River has lined all the way down a thing called salt cedar. These are not native plants that were brought in during the Depression to hold the banks of the river, only they didn't understand that this thing sucks up water like is unbelievable, the amount of water that these salt cedar use. We're going to have to get rid of all that because hundreds of thousands of acre-feet of water are used by the salt cedar. So, and of course fire, because of things that are so dry, obviously. I have seen fires, one called Chetasky that was a couple of years ago that consumed, I think, about 30,000 acres because we didn't thin the forest and take these dead trees out, which provided the fuel. I've seen trees explode because of the heat generated by the fuel that's underneath it. We've got to thin our forests. In the old days, the forest with a fire would just sweep through because there was no fuel underneath. And we're going to have to thin all of our forests. So we have a lot of work to do so that our kids and our grandkids can have the kind of lifestyle that we did. Now let me just talk about the world with you for a second. The world, according to Dr. Henry Kissinger, who testified before our committee, Dr. Henry Kissinger, probably the most respected person in the world on foreign policy and national security, said that the world is in more crises today than at any time since the end of World War II. And if you look at the map of the world, you will see challenges, crises, and horrible things happening literally in many places in the world. Obviously, we look at the Middle East as the major center for that, but I can also tell you in Ukraine, Russia is dismembering a nation for the first time in 70 years, and Vladimir Putin continues to take small bites out of Ukraine, and we Americans refuse to give them weapons with which to defend themselves. It's one of the more shameful chapters in history, and Vladimir Putin is putting pressure on the Baltic countries, on Poland, on Romania, and Moldova, and others. And it was Vladimir Putin that said the greatest disaster of the 20th century was the breakup of the Soviet Union. He is bent on restoring the Russian Empire, which he feels that Ukraine was an integral part. And in some ways, he's right. Russia started in Kiev, and then the capital, and then moved to then St. Petersburg. That became Leningrad, and now is St. Petersburg again. So that pressure is very intense. In the Middle East, I'm sure that you, not just the Middle East, but I'm sure you saw the other day, 3 events took place in one day. A slaughter in Tunisia, which I'm sure you saw the pictures of, a beheading in France, and the third one was in Kuwait, where there was a suicide bomber that blew up a mosque and killed, I've forgotten now, 60 or 70 people. All of them were motivated by, guess who? By ISIS. They were radicalized by buying into this perverted form of an honorable religion that had made them into terrorists who are willing to sacrifice their own lives in order to take the lives of others. And we have watched this disease spread, first beginning in Iraq and Syria, and then now as far away as Libya, as far away as Tunisia, and even now ISIS is trying to establish footholds even as far away as Afghanistan. This is what we call asymmetrical warfare. We can have all the tanks and all the jet planes and all the B-1 and B-2 bombers, but these people obviously are willing to put strap bombs to themselves and go in and take the lives of others as well as their own, in the belief that then they've got a ticket to paradise. And so we're going to have to understand that this isn't just a military struggle, but it's also an ideological struggle. We have arrested people here in the United States of America that have been radicalized over the internet. Thousands of young men have left Europe and gone to fight in Iraq and Syria. They will return someday, radicalized by their experience in Iraq and Syria, to the country that they came from. And that, my friends, is a real threat. There's estimates of as much as 30,000 Europeans, and I don't hold me to that, but I've heard that. Suppose there's 30,000 European young men in now Iraq and Syria, and only 1% of them, when they came back, wanted to commit an act of terror. That's a lot of people. So what do we need to do? First, we need to defeat them militarily, and we have no strategy for doing so. The President of the United States himself admitted it the other day. And none of this had to happen, by the way, if we'd done what we needed to do, like leave a residual force behind in Iraq and where we had the conflict won. But where we are now is that we need to defeat ISIS militarily, because their victory after victory, with only a few setbacks, is also one of the attractiveness of these young men to come and fight under their banner. The second thing is we have to understand that this is a propaganda war as well. And one of the things that needs to be done is Muslim clerics to condemn this form of Islam, which is a perversion of an honorable religion. And we have to understand that the internet is now a battleground, an ideological battleground, and we have to fight back on it. It's going to be a long struggle. We're going to be in it for people in this room's lifetime, because it has taken root throughout the Middle East, and it is spreading even as far away as equatorial Africa. And one of the reasons why these different groups, even as far south as Nigeria and others, pledge allegiance to ISIS, because they want to be part of the winning team. And they probably have never met many of the leaders of ISIS. And by the way, the leader of ISIS today is a guy named Baghdadi. Baghdadi was in our American prison in Iraq for 4 years. At one time, we had a prison camp in Iraq called Camp Buka. There was 27,000 inmates there at one time, and he was there for 4 years. The day that Baghdadi left, he said to the Americans, he said, "I'll see you in New York." Now, Mr. Baghdadi wasn't joking. Mr. Baghdadi doesn't think he can defeat the United States of America, but he sure thinks that he can do bad things in America through his surrogates and those who are his followers. So the world is in a very dangerous situation, and obviously what we have just seen in Tunisia, by the way, I'm sure you know this, Tunisia, 15% of their economy is tourism. What do you think just happened to 15% of their economy, which was already in bad shape already? So and it was the only really functioning democracy in all across that North Africa rim. And that was one of the reasons, obviously, why that was a prime target. Maybe I could just mention to you the Supreme Court decisions. The decision on gay marriage is what it is. It's my belief that marriage is between one man and one woman. And now a lot of the efforts that some of us will be making is to make sure that people have religious freedom in this country and are not dictated to what their beliefs should be. We just had this decision about our redistricting. Everyone had expected the Supreme Court to rule that we would have to redraw our congressional districts. They didn't do that, and Mayor, I don't know how many people were disappointed that there was about 30 or 40 would-be members of Congress that were drawing their own maps. So that put that to rest, and of course, there were other decisions that were made as well that to some of us means that the United States Supreme Court seems to be more politically involved than we had seen in the past. It seems to us, that many of us, that they are making somewhat political decisions. Finally, I'm just would like, after painting that bleak picture, the United States of America has a bright future. We are now energy independent. The price of a gallon of gasoline that you're going to burn is much lower here than it is in most any place else in the world. It's a huge breakthrough because it eliminates our dependence on Middle Eastern oil. In fact, if we really want to help the Europeans and the people in Ukraine, we should take that natural gas that's being flared in the oil fields of North Dakota and get it to the living rooms of Ukraine, Poland, Romania, Hungary, who are now dependent on Russian energy. And we're energy independent, and we can do it. Second of all, manufacturing jobs are coming back to the United States of America. Third of all, all the technology advances now still in the cutting edge of the future of the world's economy is here in the United States, in Silicon Valley and other places. So I'm optimistic about the future, but in the meantime, I have not been more worried in the short term about the challenges that we face. So with that, I'd like to say thanks for attending and being here. Thank you. And I hope you spend a really lot of money while you're here. We really want to make sure you do that. And I'd like to respond to any questions or comments that you might have. Thanks very much for having me. Sir.
You mentioned about the energy or independence. How do we achieve that given that Keystone didn't go through?
Well, the fracking is what has really has been the breakthrough. The fracking has unleashed energy deposits that were almost unheard of. I'm sure you know that the price of oil, thanks to the Saudis, is about half that it was a year ago. And from my understanding is that because the Saudis just basically flooded the market. So that will put the brakes to some degree on our exploration, because when you get below a certain amount per barrel, then that exploration is not worth the cost. And so we're seeing a slowdown up in North Dakota, which, by the way, until recently had a 2% unemployment rate. So if we could continue with the fracking and the XL pipeline, and also there is an executive order that says the United States cannot export oil. If we can get that reversed, it's very important to do that. That's why elections matter.
What's the chance of the Keystone
pipeline?
going through?
I'm afraid it's going to be a new president. I think that's what it is. Yeah, but almost any candidate that I've seen, and I'm even optimistic about Secretary Clinton if she were elected. I think any of them would go ahead and approve the XL pipeline. Sir.
I'm concerned about the TPP, the long-term effects of the TPP, and the fact that it was a secretive document.
Well, first of all, trade is one of the most important challenges that the world faces. And I believe that the United States of America and our workers and our innovation and our talent can beat anybody on earth. And when I look at the North American Free Trade Agreement, which was concluded back in 1991, I believe, and you go down to our border then and look at our border now, you will see a flood of traffic. We used to be able to go down to Nogales, Arizona, and walk across and have lunch and walk back. Now, if you want a nice 3-hour wait getting across and 3-hour back, then go ahead and do it. It's because of all of the traffic and goods and products and services that are going, and if you go up to Detroit, Michigan, you'll see the same thing. NAFTA has been a great success. The finance minister of Mexico told me that Mexico does more business with Arizona than it does with Spain. And it has had a huge impact. We all in Arizona, particularly with all of our exports, ranging from a tremendous amount of produce, 75% of the lettuce consumed in the United States of America in the winter is grown in Yuma, Arizona. And that's exported too. So my point is that we should be able to compete with anybody. Free trade is the key to it. China is not in this trade agreement. 12 other nations are. I met with the Prime Minister of Singapore who told me, he said, if you do not approve the TPP, it's a disaster and you will give your economy up to China. And so I'm a great believer in it. The trade, our labor unions were adamantly opposed. The labor unions have always been opposed to it. And finally, for those of you that study history, in the 1920s, there was a thing called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Acts, where they raised all the taxes on any goods coming into the United States of America, and it was one of the major contributors to the Great Depression. As far as the transparency is concerned, when they reach the agreement, then everybody will see it. And remember, that vote was just to make sure that there's either an up or down vote in the Congress. It didn't ratify it. It just said whether it would be an up or down vote. So if the negotiations are concluded, which I would imagine they will be, then the Congress and the American people will be able to see it, and their representatives will be able to vote yes or no. The vote that we had was only a yes or no vote, rather than allow it to be amended and changed after it had been negotiated. Long description, pretty boring.
I love McCain, as everyone knows here. He's such a jokester. You were there with him today, Steve Krafft.
Yeah, it was. We covered him at an appearance he made at a company called Robertson Fuel Systems. They make components that are put in military vehicles, airplanes, helicopters, I should say, and also some ground vehicles, so that if they're in a war and someone shoots a grenade at a tank, let's say, or a Bradley armored vehicle, it doesn't blow up. It sort of protects the fuel line. If someone hits a helicopter with a grenade, it's not going to blow up the helicopter because it's protecting all the fuel.
Right, I noticed he was speaking a lot about vets when he was there today.
Right, because it's a military contractor he was talking to. So he was talking military stuff. This was billed as a town meeting. It's not really a town meeting. It's a very small, it's an audience just of people inside a company.
Right,
so it's
employees.
not like anyone walking down the street can just pop in and ask the senator a question.
What about this one? I know this is at the Mesa
Same deal.
City of Chamber of Commerce.
This is a bunch of people who are all going to be pilots.
Oh, okay.
And so he does have, on occasion, legitimate town halls in which he's, say, at the Phoenix Public Library, and people just kind of show up and ask questions.
So you can just show up and talk to John
Yeah,
McCain.
but that's rare. In my experience with him, mostly they're tightly controlled before almost invariably friendly audiences. He rarely gets a question that he
Is
doesn't want to
unexpected.
get, that is unexpected. So just as a reporter, I would like it if he went to places where he didn't have a friendly audience.
Like people who hated him.
Well, I disagreed with him.
Okay.
You know, if he went down to Mill Avenue in Tempe and just went to ASU and got a range of people in the audience, if he went to minority communities more frequently than he does, talked to folks there, what is their take on what's going on, that would be great.
What's McCain?
And so he famously said, "Build the danged fence,"
Danged.
which he wouldn't have said, 5 years before that at all. But he's a politician, and it's all about survival.
Right.
He's got a very important job. He's head of the Armed Services Committee, chairman. He's one of the most powerful people in Washington. And to keep that job, he's got to do whatever to stay in office. So he's got a tough race potentially coming up next year, so far against Ann Kirkpatrick, who's the congressperson from northern Arizona, Flagstaff area. And to beat her, depending on how well the Democratic nominee runs in Arizona, he's going to have to shore up that base and fend off any fears that people have that he's getting a little bit too old.
But how many Senate terms has he served already?
Wow. I think he's served
Like 6?
five so far.
Okay.
I think this would be number 6.
Yeah.
He's been in a real long time. I think
Exactly.
since, yeah. I
Is
think
it-
since 86.
People like the status quo. They often vote for incumbents.
They often vote for incumbents. He's a Republican in a Republican-leaning state. He has a military, his brand is military. He was a military hero,
Prisoner of war.
prisoner of war, that he has made the foundation of his political career. So it was a horrendous experience that he had. I read his book. It was fascinating, his captivity. It was nightmarish, and he was very brave in that captivity. But were it not for that terrible experience, he probably wouldn't be sitting in the U.S. Senate today. So it's funny what happens in life, the paths it takes you down.
Very deep, Steve
Yeah,
Krafft.
yeah.
I do want to acknowledge Rachel's comment. She just wanted to let you know that she loves your blogs and she wants your videos to be longer.
I thought about that. I'm real glad you got to me on that, got back to me on that. I think that if the thing about web video is if it's too long, people tune it out. People have a very short attention span on the web, so you have to get right to the point and get right out of it. If I did a 3-minute video, I think I would lose people after about 45 seconds. So I do about a 45-second video. So I've only lost some people after 30 seconds.
You want to keep them wanting more. Like, what's Krafft going to drop next?
Well, I just think it has to be, get right to it and do it, and then be done with it.
Well,
I think that's how it is.
It's like news. They want to keep those packages at 1:15, and there's sometimes I play these random stories